Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Real Sports Updates here. Back again with another video. So, basically what we're doing, we're continuing this week one little matchup series that I'm doing. Raiders, Chargers, to start the season, week one, September 11th, SoFi Stadium. Kickoff time, 1:25 p.m. West Coast time. So, covered, some other position groups, covered J.C. Jackson and Devontae Adams. This video is going to cover what I believe to be the Chargers, where they pretty much set themselves apart from the Raiders, and where that game one will be won, right? Week one game will be won in this area, and that is the Chargers receivers, tight ends, against the Raiders secondary. Now, we all know who the Chargers have, right? At the skill positions, right? We know Keenan, we know Mike, we know what they do, right? The Raiders this is where I believe the Raiders are going to fail this season, and this is what I ultimately believe keeps the Raiders out of the playoffs. I kind of mentioned their offensive line and the struggles that they had. This is also a very, very weak spot for the Raiders, and I believe it's going to show itself. And I think probably in years past, right, you can get away with having a secondary like this, right, in years past, if you are, going up against Matt Castle twice a year, right, possibly if you're going up against Phillip Rivers twice a year, if you're playing Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock or whatever, this would probably suffice, right? But this is not going to do it this year. And ultimately, I believe the Raiders' offensive line issues and the secondary issues, along with probably the front end of the defense, right, the front seven, I believe that's going to keep the Raiders out of the playoffs in a loaded AFC West and in a loaded AFC conference in general. So let's get into it a little bit. I kind of wanted to not do a deep dive, but kind of break it down a little bit and see what's going on here. So, like I said, we know who Mike Williams is, who Keenan Allen is, right? The one guy that I think it was the underrated acquisition of the offseason was Gerald Everett, right? The tight end. He started his career with the Rams, I believe, for 4 years. He played with the Seahawks last season. And he's a guy, he has all of the tools in the toolbox to be one of the premier tight ends in the league. He is he's very similar to Darren Waller. As far as size and athleticism goes, but he has just never really had his breakout season yet. And he's a guy, he can do a little bit of everything, right? He can block a little bit. He can get open. He can work the middle, right? He can beat linebackers, right? He can bully, the smaller safeties and DBs. He's got it all. So I believe he's going to have a breakout season. I think he just needed a consistent quarterback to play with. I think Justin Herbert is going to give him that consistent quarterback play that he's never had, right? Jared Goff was okay. Obviously he was with the Seahawks last year. Russell Wilson, he missed a significant amount of time last season. So Geno Smith was pretty much throwing to him, at the tail end of last season. So I believe he's going to have a breakout season. Now, as far as, the offense goes, I think the offense is going to take a step forward this season just based off of familiarity, right? Just based off of, having done this before in this same offense, right? The verbiage, everything stays the same, right? But I do think that the Chargers will, put in some more packages to get some more easy plays, right? Everything can't be a 12-play drive. Everything can't be, a 10-play drive, right? That's too difficult. It's going to put too much pressure, too much stress on your offense. You got to have some layups every now and then. And I believe the Chargers have the guys to take advantage of that, right? The signing of Deandre Carter, right? The good return man from Washington last season, right? He's with the Chargers now, so I believe there are gonna be some packages in there for him, to get some jet sweeps, possibly, some stuff down the middle of the field, right? Something deep to stretch the defense, and I also believe that Jalen Guyton will be featured a little bit more prominently in that role, right? He is, from 40 times, right? He's the fastest guy on the offense, right? He is a 4.3 guy, And, when you have a 4-3 guy on your offense, the best way to use him is to send him downfield, right? He doesn't have to be the best route runner. He doesn't have to have the best release. He doesn't have to have any of that stuff. If he's fast and he can run by people, you send him downfield. So I believe the Chargers will do that, right? Possibly a combination of both guys. But I believe that they will send these guys down the field, and they will stretch the defense more a little bit vertically this season. It's a no-brainer, really. You got to get easy layups, and all of the really good teams, the really premium teams, the teams who are competing for Super Bowls, they have at least one guy who is able to break a defense down, right, and be able to go over top, right. And it doesn't have to be a touchdown every time, but to be able to pick up, a 40-yard gain on a first or second down or whatever, it really does set your offense apart, right? Because you don't have to go and do, get the ball at the 20-yard line and have to do 12 plays down the field, right? You have to be almost perfect every single play, right, in order for you to get into field goal range, right, to kick a field goal or, to ultimately score a touchdown. So I think the layups are going to come this year, and I believe there's going to be packages in there that are going to help the Chargers, achieve that. Now, the Week 1 matchup specifically, right? The Raiders secondary is not impressive, right? They don't strike fear in anybody, right? So Trayvon Mullen, Rock Ya-Sin, he's a free agent signing from the Colts. Trayvon Moehrig at safety, Jonathan Abram at safety, Anthony Averitt, I believe they signed him from the Baltimore Ravens last season, and Nate Hobbs, right? So you got, pretty much 6 guys who are going to be on the field, right, covering, for a good amount of time and then during the season. Now, Trayvon Moehrig, his Pro Football Focus score was a 72.5, right? And he was a guy that, out of everybody, out of all of the guys on the Raiders secondary, he by far had the best season. He knows what he's doing, right? He knows how to play his safety position, right? He knows where to be. He's never really out of place, and he's kind of always around the ball. But he doesn't really take too many chances, right? He's always there to make a tackle. He's always there to defend a pass. So he is a pretty good player. He had a pretty good season last year, but I think his instincts are very, very good. He was a guy that stood out to me when I did watch Raider games, and it wasn't a surprise. Looking up the PFF score, he has the highest score. And it wasn't a surprise because he's a player that he took advantage of that Gus Bradley defense last year, right? The cover 3. You always have that deep safety down the middle of the field, and he was a guy, he was in position, right, and he played really, really well. So it wasn't a surprise. Now, everybody else is not nobody's blowing you away. Rock Ya-Sin, he had a pretty good year for the Colts last season. His PFF score was 69. He's a guy, he's going to come in, he's going to start, he'll be the starting corner. Now, that score, that 69, PFF score, right, it's, on the precipice, right, of being a starter, right? You're a quality starter at that. So, but this was, against, this is 2 games against Jacksonville, right? This is 2 games against Houston, 2 games against Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, right? So, that's 6 games right there against quarterbacks who are, Trevor Lawrence was a rookie last year. The Texans started a rookie last year in Davis Mills, and Ryan Tannehill. We know that he is not the most prolific quarterback in the league. So those numbers might be a little bit misleading. I think the challenge is obviously there. He's Herbert twice, Mahomes twice, Russell Wilson twice. So this is not the AFC South, right? There is no Ryan Tannehills in this division. So we'll see if that score actually stands up. He's been a guy that's just been kind of average throughout his career, and I pretty much expect the same from him going forward. Where you kind of get into trouble here, right, is Jonathan Abrams, the safety, 56.9 score on his, the PFF. That's what PFF graded him, right? He was number one in receptions allowed by a safety. So this guy cannot cover. And he is always, consistently, perpetually out of place. His instincts are not good, right? He is the opposite of Trayvon Moore, who I just talked about. He's always out of place. He's always looking for a big hit. He does not wrap up and tackle. And he kind of just is out there freelancing. He kind of reminds me of Roy Williams, the old safety that played for the Cowboys. He can't cover, right? And everybody talked about. I remember when he came into the league, everybody talked about, oh, he's a big hitter. He's a big hitter. He couldn't cover. He cannot cover. And he had a terrible season last year. He struggles mightily against tight ends that are not even great tight ends, but against tight ends that are even capable of catching passes. He struggles mightily. He's always out of position. He consistently has his eyes are always in the backfield, and you can tell because he takes a false step forward and then he'll end up getting beat over the top. It's happened several times within the past few seasons. I don't even understand how this guy is still starting. I believe he was one of the three guys who got his fifth-year option declined by the Raiders, and it's no surprise. He is terrible. He is all he's too small to be a linebacker, and I think that's his instincts look like a linebacker. It looks like if you take a middle linebacker, right, one of the most downhill run-playing middle linebackers, and put him back there at safety. That's exactly what it looks like. But he's not a linebacker. He's too small to play linebacker, and he wouldn't survive physically as a linebacker in the NFL. So his only place is to play safety, right? He can't cover like a cornerback. You definitely can't do that because he's too aggressive, as in coverage. So he cannot do that. So his place is playing safety. I would be shocked if he started this year. Because he is a liability. He is a defensive liability. He has no instincts. Like, I don't even know. Does he? It's to the point where I question if he actually, watches film and studies, because he's consistently out of place. He's bad. He's very, very bad. And if this guy's on the field, then you know who to attack, right? And Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. If he sees him on the field, if he sees number 24 on the field, right? And it's blasphemous that he's wearing 24 anyway, right? Charles Woodson wears number 24. Why is he wearing 24? That's another question for another day. But if Herbert sees him out on the field, it's go time. And they are going to be attacking him if he's out on the field. Like I said, I would be surprised if he starts. If he starts, then wow. That says a lot about the coaching staff and stuff. But he's bad. He's very bad. The Raiders also signed Anthony Averitt from the Ravens, I believe. Yeah, he was with the Baltimore Ravens. He's another bad corner. He was 56.3. So his PFF score was lower than Jonathan Abrams. He gave up the 23rd most receptions by a cornerback. Right now, there are a lot of cornerbacks who are judged with, or who have a PFF score. Let me say rather. And so basically, when they're compiling the PFF scores, you have to have at least 20% of the snaps as the most guy in order for them to actually grade you, right? So he played a lot of snaps last year, and he was bad. He was like 96th or something like that in I can't remember what the stat was. I'm blowing my mind with all these stats, but this guy is bad too. He cannot cover. He was bad for the Ravens. The Ravens had the worst pass defense in the league last season. They gave up a bunch of yards. They gave up a bunch of touchdowns, and they gave up a bunch of yards and plays on third down, and that obviously will rank you last in pass defense. But Anthony Averitt was the guy that everybody targeted. He was the guy that a bunch of teams targeted when I can't remember which game it was. I think it might have been the earlier in the season. I think it was the Colts at the Colts at the Ravens on a Monday night. The Ravens jump out to a big lead. The Colts, they end up making a run and they end up coming back. Carson Wentz was targeting this guy here. Now, I don't think anybody really thinks that highly of Carson Wentz or, the Colts receivers, but this guy was getting burnt. And he continually got burnt all season long, and this is somebody who the Raiders signed. Now, I don't think that he will be playing. I don't think he'll be starting. He'll be playing, but I don't think he'll be starting. So I don't think his snaps are going to be as high as they were with last year with the Ravens. But again, this guy's going to be a liability. Again, in the AFC West, right? You have all of these teams who are able to pass the ball well, right? You have all of these quarterbacks, right? You have 3 elite quarterbacks. You're going to struggle. You are going to struggle. The other cornerback is Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs had a pretty good season, but I don't know if he's in the doghouse or anything like that, but he had a pretty good season, and his PFF score is like a 73, I believe, too. So he's up there. He had a pretty good season, and he's not a bad corner. He can cover, but he is, for some reason, he's like down on the Raiders depth chart when I was looking this up. I don't know why. I know he was one of the guys that got the DUI last year. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, or if maybe McDaniels and his staff is not high on him, but I don't know why he's not, up a little higher. This obviously the guy I would have starting, right? I would have him starting over Trayvon Mullen for sure. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how they mix things around, but I do believe that this secondary is not good enough in the AFC West. I don't believe that they're going to be able to stop anybody's passing game. Like I said, the Chargers twice, the Broncos twice, the Chiefs twice. You have elite quarterbacks, right? You have elite quarterbacks. You have high-powered offenses that are going to tear this secondary apart, right? And it is going to be very, very hard for the Raiders to compete in the division when you cannot cover, right? And you have to be able to cover because you're not going to get sacks every single time, right? All 3 quarterbacks that they face in the AFC West are mobile guys. They're guys that can roll out and that can throw on the run. Herbert can run. Obviously, Mahomes can run. Obviously, Russell Wilson can run. All these guys can run. They can throw on the run. They can, throw to either side, right, left, right, whatever. They can manipulate the pocket, move around. It's going to be very, very hard for the Raiders to compete. And, you're going to make the pass rusher's job a lot harder, right? Chandler Jones and Max Crosby are going to have to put up, like, crazy stats in order for the Raiders, to be competing in the division, right? This you put too much pressure on your front four, in order for them to get stops, get off the field, and get off the field on third down, right? So it's just not good enough. This is not good enough, and this is in comparison, right, to Mike Williams has a 77.6 PFF rating, right? Keenan Allen has a 77.5 PFF rating. So you're going up against 2 really, really good receivers, right? And by PFF standards, they are not elite. They're not up there. They're not elite. But for what the Chargers do, right, they get open. And they're going to put up numbers. They're going to put up stats, right? They're going to get in the end zone. And, to top it all off, Justin Herbert, his PFF number, 90.1, right? This is in the elite category. Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. Again, if anybody's not familiar with PFF, Pro Football Focus, they're a team, right, started by Chris Collinsworth, the Sunday Night Football broadcaster, right? I believe he started in 2014. They're a group. They're a team. They watch every play, right? Anybody who has a grade, they have watched every single play of that player from, the previous season. They have watched every single play, and they have this is a composite grade of every single play. And they come up with these ratings based off of, a player's, not, and it's not just about his stats, but they are watching plays or breaking down the film, right? They take into account, how many interceptions the guy has, if it was his fault, if it's the receiver running the wrong route, if the ball got tipped, and things like that. They are not just looking at stats and saying, oh, this guy's great because he put up great stats. No, it's not that way. They're breaking this down. So I trust their judgment, and I trust their grading system. So, you're going to go up against in week 1 specifically, you're going to go up against an elite quarterback, right? With two really, really good receivers, right? With a really good running back coming out of the backfield as well, too, right? And untapped potential at tight end. And you got two speed guys who are, going to be able to get loose in some of the packages that are going to be put in. The Raiders are going to have a hard time stopping the Chargers in week 1. And this is why I believe the Chargers are going to win this game by 10 points. They're going to win it by at least 10 points because, there's only so much you can do with your pass rush, right? There's only so much you can do. Rashawn Slater is an elite left tackle, right? So whoever lines up on him is neutralized. Whoever they decide to put at right tackle is, whoever it is, right? You can slide the line, right? You can give them help. You can chip them. You can do a whole bunch of different things, right? And you can just run the ball at them, too, and tire them out, right? So the Raiders are going to have a hard time. They're going to have a hard time stopping what the Chargers do offensively, right? Especially if the Chargers are rolling. They are familiar with everything. Like I said, all the verbiage is the same. Everything is the same from last year, right? All you got to do is go out and execute now at a much higher level than you did last year. This is going to be hard, right? This is going to put a lot of pressure on this team. And like I said, if Jonathan Abrams is out on the field, look for Justin Herbert to be matchup honey because Gerald Everett can eat against this guy all day long because he is going to be out of position. He's going to be trying to be in the box when he needs to be in coverage, right? His eyes are going to be in the backfield. He's going to lose, contact with whatever receiver or tight end that he's on. It's going to be hard and it's going to be tough. And, the Raiders, this is going to be, like I said, I believe this is going to keep the Raiders out of the playoffs. They are not good enough to compete with any of, the upper echelon teams in the AFC. They can't compete with this secondary. They cannot run the secondary out here. This is not a playoff secondary. This is not a Super Bowl secondary. This is something that they're going to have to address next season, right? And, if they have any money after paying Renfro and, they're going to have to pay Darren Waller and, they're going to have to end up playing the left tackle as well, too. This is something they're going to need to address, and they're going to have to address this in the draft, free agency trades, whatever. But they're going to have to address this because this ain't good enough. This is not going to be good enough in this, division, in this conference. It's just not going to be good enough, and it's not going to be good enough week 1. The Chargers are going to eat this alive. Justin Herbert's going to eat this alive, especially considering that they are moving to a new defense, right? They are no longer under the Gus Bradley defense, right? They are, under the Patrick Graham defense. I believe he was the coordinator for the Giants last year, right? So how much of their defensive scheme are they going to be familiar with, right? They're probably going to keep things kind of simple to, week 1. But Justin Herbert is going to eat this up. He's going to eat this alive. And if they're not getting pressure every single play, they're going to be in trouble. So, like I said, I think the Chargers win this game by 10 points. But that's just me, just based off of these matchups, just based off of who the Raiders are going to run out there in week 1. And just based off them not going to be, familiar with their defense fully, in week 1. So we'll see what happens going forward. But, this is looking like a revenge game for the Chargers, and I think that's how it's going to play out. And like I said, I think the Chargers are going to win this by 10 points. They are the superior team in pretty much every facet, right, except for a few positions, right? Maybe tight end, maybe kickers, things like that. But this is lining up for the Chargers to really put it on the Raiders, and hopefully. I hope it plays out that way, barring injury or anything like that, anything crazy happening. But, this is something the Raiders are going to have to address going forward. And it's not just against the Chargers in week 1. They're going to have to address this going forward. They are going to see how porous their defense is, based off of how their secondary plays, right? Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, they can't get to the quarterback every down. So we'll see what happens going forward. But that is my breakdown for the week 1 game. I'll probably be breaking down another game here pretty soon within the next few days. If you like this content, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up on the way out. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification too so YouTube alerts you when I drop a video. But that's all I got for this one, guys. Thank you so much for the support, the views, the comments, the engagement, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. But that's all I got for this one. I'm signing off now, and I will see you guys later.